Okay, welcome everybody. It's 3 o'clock, a minute past 3. Let's get this meeting on the road. This is the Finance and Planning Committee meeting. Today the bulk of our discussions will be about the proposed fee schedule. A couple of housekeeping items. I don't have the nice checklist, but basically, if any way, shape, or form you feel ill, cough, fever, travel out of state, have visitors that you don't like, things like that, you are free to get up and leave. The second is we're passing around a COVID sign-up sheet, so please fill in your particulars, name, etc. Okay, so with that, the meeting is called to order. First item on the agenda is approval of prior minutes. Thank you very much, Kathy, for the diligent and excellent work you've been doing. We do appreciate it. Minutes are important. Has everybody had a chance to review it? Any comments, discussion items? Seek a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, approved. Comments from the board representative, got anything, Boyd, that you want to say in a moment?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, comments from the chair. I was notified by Jema that she's still having some personal issues, and as such, we have agreed to, for the time being, put her appointment to this committee on hold. So when things clear up for her, she'll notify me or the then chair, and then we can proceed with appointing her to the committee. Next week, expect that we will be tackling the issue of reviewing the budget. Please note that next week, this room starting at 1 o'clock, not 3 o'clock. I would expect that whatever discussions we are having today could easily multiply when we're talking about the budget, and think in terms of potentially meeting the following week if that is required. Okay, with that, new business. Review of proposed fee schedule. I'm going to read a couple of things very briefly. What are we doing here? And if you read our charter and duties and responsibility, the committee is to review the proposed annual capital and operating budget and related fees to assure alignment with established strategic intent of the board of directors. So that's pretty high level, but it's pretty clear that we're to look at these and make sure that they are aligned with what has been issued by the board in terms of budget and fee development. Earlier this year, sometime around early June, and thanks to John for circulating this, the board had approved the 2021 to 2023 budget guidance. It's about 20 to 25 lines, and it covers a wide variety of subjects. Just looking at the number of emails that have been passed in the past week, I picked probably about five or six things that we have directly addressed, or I felt that we have directly addressed. I'm going to read them. I'm not saying that I'm right. Everybody can read their own copy and decide whether things apply or don't apply. But the things that kind of spoke to me are these. Focus on fixed costs versus variable costs, conservative revenue estimates, increase and diversify revenue sources, create an internal marketing focus on amenity usage, no subsidy increases in 2021, and focus on growing rooftops. So those are just some principles that you hope would have been taken into consideration in developing the budget and our review of the budget. So with that,
Tom,
sure.
And I think the other thing that was utilized was that we decided to budget utilizing phase 2 of the COVID through all of 2021 to be conservative.
Very good. Lot to say about COVID. Okay, things that have come up, and I think we're going to be discussing today, are issues with builders' fees, pools and meeting room, golf surcharge, vehicle stickers, and the ACH charge. And it's not limited to that. We're going to be, I would plan to be open with other items that people think are critical. With that, Jason is asked to go first. So he's going to say a little bit about builders.
Okay, can y'all hear me okay up there?
Yes.
All right. And Cree, you just kind of got me as we want to go through this here. But if you want to talk about builder's fees, I do have some good news for you in the area that we have been able to reduce some of our utility, sewer service and water service fees in that area. And we'll talk about that as we go through it. My first page, Karina, which page would you like to start with? Okay, on the, just going down through there. The new water service fee, short at $445. And let me just explain a little bit about these short and long services. And a lot of cities do it this way, so this isn't, I didn't come up with this out of the blue. This is ways that some cities will do this. Is if you live on a side of the road, and the side of the road that you live on, there may be the water line or there may be the sewer line. So if you live on the side of the road where the sewer line is located, that's a short service. So that'd be a short service fee. But if the water line is located across the street on the other side of the road, that's a long service because you have more pipe and you're going to have to bore underneath the road. And that costs more. These costs that we're showing here at, for example, the water service new long at $2,025 and the sewer service new short at $315 and the sewer service new long at $1,950. These are all pure material costs. We went back through these fees and keeping the builders and ultimately the homeowners in mind, how could we trim these costs? And what we did was we assumed that our utility rates pay for our staff, so there's no labor costs involved in these fees. We also assumed that the utility rates pay for our equipment that we use to install these utilities. So there's no equipment costs associated with these utility fees. The only costs are new materials, pipes, bedding materials, electrical, things like that, boxes, stuff like that associated with a water or sewer service. Now, so when you have a new home come in here to the village, they will need a water service, short or long, and they'll need a sewer service, short or long, depending on what side of the road. And the good news is, we have been able to lower that cost at least $340 compared to what it would cost them last year. And in my email, I don't know if y'all saw the email, I was replying to some comments about it. Last year, it cost our new home $2,745. And it didn't matter, and that was just an average, that was the cost to put a new home in. This year, with the short and the long combinations, if you have a long water and a short sewer, it's only $2,340 combined. That's a savings of $405 to the builder, ultimately to the homeowner. If you have a long sewer and a short water, that's going to be $2,405, which will be a savings of $340 to the builder, ultimately to the homeowner. So that's some good news. In comparison, our sister community, Bella Vista, just for their water. And Bella Vista doesn't have water treatment plants, they don't have sewer treatment plants. They only have a water distribution system and a collection system. Everyone else provides those other services to them. just for a new home to go in at Bella Vista, they have a new construction water capital buy-in of $2,500 and a new construction water tap of $2,335. And then the water meter deposit is $75. It costs, just for the water side of a new home, $4,910 to move into Bella Vista. Moving here to the village is quite a bit cheaper from a water service point of view. Same thing on the sewer. Well, we didn't do any changes to the grinder pumps this year at $5,500. It's the same cost that we did last year. And again, that cost is just pure material costs, wires, no equipment, no labor at $5,500. Installed and free maintenance from there on. Your utility rate covers that. In Bella Vista, the average cost to connect to your sewer is between $6,000 and $7,000. So we're still beating Bella Vista by quite a bit. From a builder's point of view, it's cheaper to build here in the village than in Bella Vista. And that's good news.
Did you also look at Salt or Hot Springs?
I have, but just to be comparable, cities will, you just never know which utility they're subsidizing. And so it's sometimes, unless I've worked for the city and I ask those people the questions, is how's that cost coming from? It's not necessarily apples to apples. But Bella Vista is an exactly very similar community to us. And so, and there's some more new fees that are listed. The duplex grinder pump, that's kind of for future commercials. And we've listed some additional larger services. The 2-inch common property permit fee, the class 3, that's for dredging on the lakes, like on DeSoto. And the property pins location, we do have staff that's pretty good at finding pins. And if someone wants to kind of help find their pins, they go build their fence, we can help them out with that. And the estate sale fee, that's not mine, but that's a new fee. Now, do you want to go through the utility fees in addition, the other utility fees? There's not a whole lot of change.
Why don't we do one thing at a time?
Sure.
So, my question originally wasn't so much the new and short or long. I understood that. My question was, did you get any builder input on these fees and what was their reaction?
The only builder feedback I've had is from Jay Allen. Jay Allen Homes. And you probably know the context of that.
I'll just leave that one alone.
But the rest of the answer would be no. I haven't had that forum where we've put these out and gotten feedback from any builders yet. Nobody's ever, I haven't had any, I mean, I'm not hearing it, but I'm sure you guys are. And so I just want to address it that we can, these are bare bones costs that are as low as I can get them based on the materials that we can buy to put them in. Otherwise, we are subsidizing the builders. And we can do that if you want to. We can.
No, I just wanted to know who you got input from. And so the new fee on the 2-inch water, is that something we have not provided in the past and we are now providing it? Or why is this being?
So for like where we put in a 2-inch water meter, we haven't had that listed really in the past. And what we did is we just came up with the actual cost and that was part of the new, for a commercial mainly, that is just part of a new, we rarely have commercial developments here, but we just put that cost together and that was just a special fee for that particular development. But now that we see all of the Cooper properties selling and anticipating more places like Trademark and like other commercial facilities coming, this is just trying to think ahead. And this is what the cost would be for a kind of a commercial size facility that has multiple restrooms and multiple facilities and things like that.
Okay, so basically, even though it may have been out there before, we haven't had it on the fee structure, but we've been providing it to.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
The grinder duplex, take me through that again, that's a new option then?
Well, if you go to that, back up to the utility fees, oh, you're talking about the duplex?
Right.
Yeah, so the duplex, one of the things we'd like to do, and this is subject to the board approving a policy change on our wastewater collection system, is everybody outside of the village for commercial facilities of any size require a duplex pump station. Commercial facilities here in the village have to maintain their own lift stations, if there are there, and we will provide maintenance service to that. And it's just good practice because the commercial owner is responsible for their own unit. If you have a backup pump, that gives them plenty of time to figure out what they want to do, if they want to replace the pump with a different brand or a cheaper pump or whatever. It gives them time while they don't have to shut down. Now, if you have a commercial facility and your pump goes out, we can technically turn the water off because you're creating an environmental hazard to the community by the overflows of your pump facility, and your business has to be shut down during that time. And we don't want to do those things. But that's not a policy yet. And so anticipating a policy change, this is, I wanted to go ahead and get that out there. And that's a really good price for a duplex grinder pump system.
So backing up the truck a little bit here, could you go through the beginning of what I thought I heard you say, this is for commercial outside the village?
No, commercial inside the village. In comparison to what other cities do outside of the village,
Okay.
as my reference, they all require in their ordinances or municipal codes that any commercial facility or multifamily facility, say for example a fourplex facility, like a townhouse association or something like that, where they have a community lift station, that it's a duplex lift station, just for that enhanced reliability.
So why would we need this on there if we don't have a policy to support it?
Because I'm bringing a policy.
When?
To follow all of this, yes, as part of the part of the
Get
thing.
the horse before the cart there, buddy.
Well, we're thinking ahead. We're just simultaneously trying to do that. It's, some people, ask those questions. We'll cross that bridge as we go.
Is a duplex grinder something that we already install for commercial properties as is?
We haven't. The churches, we're trying to encourage churches to put in duplex units. Some of them have, on the bigger ones, on the smaller ones they haven't. A lot of the little smaller commercial facilities, they only have like one restroom. We've allowed the Simplex to go in. Again, they're completely responsible for those units. We'll be glad to go out there and provide service, but if that pump goes down, you're basically out of business until we get that pump fixed, or until they get that pump fixed. And we're here to help. And if it's a pump, such as this duplex grinder pump, this is a specific type of duplex grinder pump. It's like a double residential grinder pump system, which we carry these replacement pumps in stock. We are available to assist our commercial customers in that manner so they'd have very little downtime in that respect.
But we have not installed any previously for any commercial property.
Well, I mean, we did, if they pay us to do it, we'll do it. For example, we did the trademark and they paid us to do that. We will work with them.
And what I'm kind of getting at is this is an option that would be available, even if it didn't go through policy, if a commercial company came in and they decided they didn't want to have to worry about their pump going out, they could have the option to buy the duplex?
That's right, and we would encourage them that if the commercial development is small enough to go with a duplex system that's very much similar to what our residential, then we can easily provide maintenance and service to them at their cost. Otherwise, they gotta call their plumber, they gotta call, whatever resources they have in the middle of the night or whenever. So we just wanna provide service and provide those options to our commercial folks, and we do. You know, a lot of folks, they call us and we go out there and help as much as we can. But if we get a little more organized, get a little more standardized, we're all using the same equipment, it's much easier and timely for us to do those repairs or assist our commercial folks here in the village better.
Okay, is there any more discussion about builder's fees? If not, then thank you very much, Jason.
You still get the,
Yeah, the only more,
Oh, wait, there's more.
but wait.
on my first page here are the gate cards and decals and annual non-window passes. Or y'all wanna go there? That's the very first page.
These.
We've, are proposing on the work pass vehicle decal to double that to 30. A lot of the commercial businesses that come in here to the village and use our roads and you know, really benefit off of the village, they don't pay very much for to help us to maintain those roads that they drive their business off of. And so we were just thinking $30 is still a token measure, but it's better than 15. Not a whole lot of revenues generated, but it's something a little better than not. And on the work pass annual, same principle. We think the folks should pay a little more money who are benefiting off of the business here in the village and using our roads and facilities. The only other one was on the sanitation. We were proposing on the, there's no change in our curbside sanitation. Last year we did have a rate increase, but no rate increase this year. On the at-house pickup, we were proposing $35 because we've been able to do more fine tuning on the cost for that. And we have about 489 at-house customers right now, and that kind of balances out. We're not making any really revenue. It's a break-even type of price on that one. And so that's proposed for that. On the yard waste bag tags, you know, which are for 5 bags, we sell in units of 5, those little yellow tags you can put in your bag. And we're calling for a special pickup. We'll go out there and pick up these bags of leaves and haul them to the Hot Springs wastewater treatment plant for composting. That operation is operating at a pretty good loss. I'm estimating around $70,000 a year plus is the cost to the PA to provide that service. Until we can not have to haul that to Hot Springs wastewater treatment plant, until we can figure out a way to do it closer or in-house, do some type of composting operation, we have to continue that service. And so we were proposing to basically just double the tag from $2.50 from 50 cents a tag to $1 a tag for a total of $5 for 5 tags. And that doesn't even begin to cover the cost, but going in the right direction.
I have a question on that one. So the special pickup, and I've ordered in one of those before, that's $30, and I get that. That's on Thursdays, special pickup, about a pickup truckload of stuff, okay? That is not how, is a special pickup called in to pick up the yard waste bags?
Yes,
Okay, so
they're both called in.
I have the 30 revenue in addition to the $5.
They're two different
5
things. Your yard waste could be a refrigerator, a piece of furniture,
No, I
something
get
like that. Whereas the yard waste bags are usually leaves.
But it's still $30 in addition to the bag tags.
No,
Or it's not.
no.
Would it make a difference if it was done on a specific day? And/or I was gonna ask because you have to break all the bags if they're in plastic ones, correct?
One of the policies we're gonna try, you're absolutely right, one of the policies we're gonna try and incorporate is to requiring our residents to use biodegradable bags. And if we can get started with that, our staff doesn't have to do that, they can do it quicker. It doesn't really save us any money, except it saves staff a lot of labor.
Is it possible to do a bulk buy of those? They look I looked a little bit, it looked like they're about 75 cents a bag. If ordering them online.
The residents can buy those at Walmart, they can buy them at hardware stores, they can use cardboard boxes, they can use, well, I'll take it back on cardboard boxes, but they can use these heavy gauge paper bags that you can buy at the hardware stores, things like that. Eventually, we won't see a real savings to this program until we do something completely different than what we're doing now. And that really winds up being probably a on-site composting operation that we can, we've already been planning and getting lots of prices on what it would cost to do that. But that's kind of something we'd like to lead to. Because I think I mentioned you can make a business plan showing that if you're losing $70,000 a year and providing a yard waste service, man, if we can trim that down at all, we're coming out ahead by doing on-site composting and lowering our operational costs in some sense.
And would doing it one day save costs? It seems to me it'd be easier to schedule somebody rather than on call. You know, they go east end one day, west end the next day, and repeat that every day. Could they consolidate maybe 20 or 30 pickups all at once?
We are looking at, if we are successful in purchasing what we call this grapple truck, we are looking at the possibility of going to picking up yard leaves every day and having a dedicated staff and truck that can pick it up on a daily basis, and it's one person, and we might be able to reduce some of our labor costs in that respect, but that's associated with the sanitation conversion plan that you've maybe heard about, but we haven't made you a detail. We'll make a presentation to you about that, I think, next week. Is that right?
We haven't put it on the schedule yet, but as soon as we can,
We're
yes.
looking to present that to you as well. But this is how we operate today. I think that covers all the fees that I have.
Can we go back to the prior slide,
With,
the vehicle stickers? Okay, so if you see the roughly third line down, it says vehicle decal, property owner, $0. I received a comment that basically said maybe 3 years ago, we used to actually charge for that, and
Yes, sir.
then when we were planning to go to RFID, we zeroed that out. And since then, things have, kind of not gone well. But the suggestion was to reinstitute that. I think if you do the arithmetic, if that line is $10 times 9,000 houses, it's about 90,000 a year. What consideration should you guys give to that concept?
I mean,
it would help recoup the cost that goes into purchasing those. It really would come down to buy-in from you guys.
yeah.
And property owners to kind of go back to it. We do spend a lot of money on all of our decals and passes and so forth, which, as it states too, is given for each property owner.
And is it fair to say that resolution of the whole RFID concept may be more than a year off?
I'd say it's probably safe.
Yeah, I'm being conservative because that's my nature. I don't know.
I've heard,
Go
I've
ahead.
heard similar comments. People don't understand why it's 0, because we don't collect sales taxes in the village. Now, it's a 3-month conversation about what we do receive in the way of fees, but why do we not collect something for each car that I own? I have to drive on the roads, whether I own a house or whether I own a lot, and then we come here to play golf, I still have to use the roads.
Yeah, it's not totally clear to me what the role of this committee is, if at a minimum, I think.
Exactly.
We're asking the question, and I think it's up to perhaps.
Man, I love what you're saying.
Okay.
But the point you said there, that it was tied to the gate system,
Mhm.
and that gate system is still unresolved, is why we didn't do anything yet.
Well, yeah.
And that's.
I understand how we got here.
I
The
totally
question
support
is,
I totally support your
Okay.
idea, though.
but, I mean, ultimately, it's, probably a discussion between staff and board about, what it wants to do, because, yeah, we did at one time do it. We stopped doing it for a reason. That reason hasn't come to pass, nor is it easily seen that it will be resolved, so,
Absolutely.
what do you do with that? And I love 90,000 a year,
I mean,
personally.
that'll buy a backhoe, that'll fix a lot of potholes. I mean, it does add up. Everything, every little piece, every little bit does help.
It covers your stickers.
And
Yeah, covers the stickers.
How much the cost of the sticker, and I can help.
They're not cheap, that's,
maybe a washer in the end.
Right, okay.
And, but we would love to work with committees and this committee on coming up with creative new revenue sources that make sense. And, I mean, we have a lot of vehicles that come into the village that use our roads that don't pay a dime for them. And if we could come up with a fair way to capture that, that's not gonna rub anybody, that's fair and reasonable, we'd love to entertain that. You know, those things involved a point of sale and that getting coordinated, so, but that's out there, we'd love to work through that. I think that's got everything I've got. Anything else?
Any other questions?
Nothing else? Okay, thank you, Jason.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to comment. It might be appropriate to vote on moving forward with the fees as outlined, and that way we could put, you know, a line behind that. And so I move that we vote to move the fees as outlined on the fee schedule that we have in front of us.
Specifically with respect to
Yeah,
building.
specifically the items we just discussed, yes, that we had questions on.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Okay?
Okay? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? All right, very good. With that, I think we want to move on to pools and meeting rooms. And so I think the general gist of the comments that I have heard was basically considering decreasing fees to stimulate usage and demand. Is that a fair? So we have members of the Recreation Committee present to ask, or to answer specific questions we may have regarding that topic.
Yeah, I'd just like to, I was going to suggest that we invite them, only because I know that they were, with my wife being in the committee, I realized how immersed she was, and that group was, in coming up with the recommendation and the time they spent behind it. And we've had a transition between Stacy leaving and you becoming, Stephanie, more closely involved in this, so there's a little bit of a transition there in knowledge and fees. And then, of course, Katrina, I think I saw her here, yeah, plays a key role with Stacy and crunching some of those numbers, particularly on the pool side and whatnot. So I think everybody in the room is we have all the knowledge we need in the room, I think, to come up with a good answer, okay? Or at least have a good discussion on that. So you want to start with pools, Tom?
Certainly, the issues were pretty similar in that just general, anecdotal feedback was that if we lowered prices, usage would go up. And that seemed to be the length of the discussion. So I guess maybe the questions are, how did we get to the current fee schedule? What research was done, and how do you determine usage based on those fees?
We have some open chairs if the committee wants to come up, or Katrina wants to come up. I mean, you get close or stay at the podium, whatever you want to do. Nobody wants to talk.
Let Jim be the spokesperson, and then he can call upon the committee if he's the chair.
Okay.
So what's the question?
How did you arrive at for the pool, basically the fee schedule, and I guess the background on that is, this is the first year of operation. I don't even know if you got a full year in. And then, you know, you really didn't have much of a track to run on. So how did the $6 and et cetera come about? What were your expectations at that time? You know, were there pro formas? How have you done against well, I guess, how have you done against budget?
Well,
Things like that.
this was done before some of our time, back in 2017 and 2018 when they first got approved. I went back and got the estimate sheet and what the revenue was expected to get and how we were gonna get there. And it was based on the previous pool back in 2014, 2012, and 2010. And a number of visits and that kind of stuff. And then what they did was put that revenue and come up with, at that time, the cost was like $4 and then at 2010, and then it went up to $4.25 and then 20, and I think up at 2014, it was like $4.50 per day. All right, so what they did was add it for 2020, actually 2019 at the time, they were gonna make it $5. And that did not include a lifeguard. It was without a lifeguard. And then if they had a lifeguard, then they added $1 more, so that the lifeguards were gonna be on the weekends. That's how the $5 got started. And the $6 got started. And then when the pool was actually built, and they found out, well, they needed the lifeguards in all the time. So then, that's when the $6 came up, because that's what the weekend they had before. Now, that's the way it started back in 2018, 2019. And what we did was basically keep the daily rate that way, because that's the way it was approved at the time of the board. Okay? Now, some of the other rates we thought were a little high, when you talk about I think the annual at that time, according to the estimate, was $250 annually, back in 2019. We thought that was too high. So we took that down, to actually 175, I believe that's what it said. Yeah.
It was.
And then this year, we looked at it and said, well, it's the same, if we look at the price for the indoor pool that you have, then it should be 150, so then we changed it to 150. That's how we got that. And then, of course, the outdoor pool with couples, we always have a 25% discount on the second person. That's the formula that's always been used for every amenity. So what we did was we started, it was already set in 2019, even though we didn't have a pool. And so we left it the way it was. Because we had no idea how many members we were gonna have. Of course, COVID-19 started, and who knew what was gonna happen. So that's how we got there. One thing we've talked about since then was we probably need to add a family thing and maybe something with children. Because I actually I asked for a survey, and I think Katrina actually called a lot of the people and got it, and there's around the area, and there's a whole litany of different costs and schedules, as far as families, as far as kids and everything else. And I think we need to look at that, for like grandparents coming in, they have, the kids come in to stay for a week, a month, or whatever, and a lot of the swimming areas around here have discounts, for kids that are 5 years old and under, or kids that are 10 and under and older, and I think we need to look at that. see if we need to implement something like that, or you can buy a card, you know, for 10 swims for $4 or something, you know, for the grandparents, for their young kids, you know, stuff like that, which we've been talking about, so, but I think we don't have that right now, and we can do that, you know, before the pool opens up next fall or next summer. So, but that's where it's at right now.
Isn't that kind of encompassed with the daily family card? Or
It could be, yeah. Yeah, there's a family card now, yeah.
But
The
would that
family card
include
right now is, it shows they're
grandkids?
$7.50 each, yeah.
That's for non-members who are, those are family members, not dependents type members.
Yeah.
Okay,
See what I'm saying? So it's not like an underage child that lives in the home that's dependent of a member, it's a family member like a grandchild.
okay.
You know, in the 300 one, you see that, you know, it's got outdoor pool couple plus dependents, you know.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, you know, is that too high? That's what we have now, you know.
Jim, that number's 262 now.
Yeah.
That's a typo.
I'm sorry, what?
That number's 262, it's not. It was 300 last year, we moved it to 262.
Oh, that's right, yeah, we took it down to 262 because that 25% off of the next one, yeah, so, I'm sorry, yeah.
At the top of this particular schedule, they have daily swim property owner, daily swim family, and they're all gone. What was that for, and why is it gone?
You mean the crossed out?
Fees,
I think that was the fitness center, I believe.
Well,
That's where
Where-
those
where
are.
you
The
talking
it
fitness-
looks like it falls under fitness daily.
oh, for the outdoor pool, they had different pricing for different days of the week when they put
No,
this.
no, 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 at the top of the sheet, the ones that are coming across from the fitness daily for the pool, daily swim was at $4 this year, and
That's the indoor pool.
That's the
Indoor.
indoor.
That's the indoor pool at the
Oh,
courthouse.
I'm not even on the same sheet then.
Yeah, the indoor pool is more, yeah. That's what the fitness center is, indoor pool.
I understand. Why is it zeroed out?
Because there was, my understanding, Trina, jump in, is that there's no way to really track once you enter the fitness center and pay your fee, if you're using the gym or the fitness, we don't have, so they just, if you're in the center, you can use any component up.
Oh, I see what you're talking about.
Instead of just you're here only to swim, or you're only to use the gym equipment, the Nautilus, the free weights, et cetera. So I think they eliminated, am I right? They eliminated the ability to come in and just swim.
Well, they can do just swim, but they pay the daily fee if
They
they're
pay
gonna
the
pay
full
that,
fee.
yeah, you know.
Okay, so if you enter the building, you're gonna pay the $7 if you're a property owner.
Yeah,
And can
You
you
use
use,
whatever you want.
can you use both?
Yes.
yep. What was
Hopefully
happening,
by taking a shower first.
Well, they have to open the shower first.
Yeah. Right. And the pool.
Well, the pool is
you
open.
have to realize that an indoor pool costs a lot more to do than an outdoor pool, you know. And a lot of us, people go into the indoor pool, not only use a jacuzzi, they use a sauna, they take a shower and everything else, you know, so actually, they were getting a great deal, you know,
Well,
so we
that's
changed
good.
that so that they pay the daily fee or the same as everybody else.
Okay.
Any other questions on pools?
This is just a general one, but what, there's the silver sneakers. Is there a fee in addition to charging for the silver sneakers? Because it'd be the same thing. If you go in, you could use
No, no.
everything there.
No, the silver sneakers, they just go in and then they, whatever the insurance company contract says, that's what they pay, you know. And if the member doesn't come in and the insurance doesn't pay, you know, they only pay when they come in. And each insurance has a different contract. Some of them require 10, some require 12, you know, a month, you know, to come up with what it would cost, you know, a member to pay, you know.
So if someone comes in and doesn't meet that minimum, they're basically using it for free.
Well,
Is that how it works out?
pretty much, pretty much. you know.
Has there been discussion on remediating that?
Well, we are not allowed to see the contract. They said it's private. I don't know what they're paying. You know, I can tell you, you know, from, you know, I've been doing this a lot, is that we know how many insurance reimbursements we get in visits, okay, and we know how much they pay. The average between everybody, which is 26,000 visits a year, and we'll divide that into the revenue that we get, it turns out to be somewhere between $3 and $3.50,
Yeah.
okay? But I don't know what each insurance company pays.
Yeah,
So,
and each insurance company probably has a different rate, but they're all Medicare rates, and
Well,
that would be a nightmare to track, I think.
well, some of them have co-payments, you know,
Right.
some of them, you know, you have to pay more premium each month to get the silver sneakers or whatever they call it, because it's different for each one, you know, so
Right.
it's whatever insurance company will pay, and some are co-payments, like I said, and Blue Cross Blue Shields requires $25, you know, you gotta spend that before they pay.
Tracking
that kind of
We
thing.
do. We submit a report, or the rec center actually, they pull all that information for billing purposes to send to the insurance companies, which tracks all of the visits, and it coincides with each of the policies by insurance.
Well, if I was understanding correctly, I think Kathy was suggesting maybe the property owners pay a co-pay to us.
Let me throw out my
As
2 cents.
as an idea.
Let me throw out my
Yeah.
2 cents about that. My insurance company wouldn't let me use Silver Sneakers, theirs was something else. You know, there were only 3 or 4 of those companies. But I did the math, and I chose to write a check to the association for an annual fitness center fee, because if I traveled or wasn't here for some reason, the association gets nothing, but the insurance company does. So it was my thinking, why not pay it to myself rather than to the insurance company? So I wrote, that's what made my decision to go the annual route. It was within a couple bucks, one way or the other, and now I've forgotten which, for the same amount of money that was costing me. So,
But a number of them don't. I mean, mine is, if I pay $25, everything else is covered. And I pay nothing.
Everyone's different, I'll
Yeah.
tell you. Just about every Advantage insurance company has a silver sneaker or something that's called that, you know. Your supplemental, there's not near as many. I can name you 3 that I know of that have that, but a lot of them don't. So it depends on what kind of insurance you have with the Medicare, you know. And so I've been doing my own research, you know, and the company that I have, they have a, it's called something else, but anyway, if I was to buy it, I'd be like you, I might as well just pay the, you know, fitness center, because
Yeah.
the premium goes up too much,
that's right.
you know, so.
So back on the regular fees, if I understood you correctly, you were saying that these fees were established kind of when we decided to build the pool.
Right. I have that sheet there, by the way, if you want it.
So was any consideration given to the input that most of us got this last year, obviously on the negative side, that the fees were too high?
Well, we had quite a discussion, you know, some people think it's too high, some people don't think it's enough because we're not getting enough money, you know. So, you know,
Yeah, the
what we kind of
subsidy is,
decided was leave it alone, you know, to see what happens, you know, and, but we did change the one, which one was
The
that?
annual went down.
Yeah,
Reduce the annual fee by $25.
and we reduced the annual fee, because we thought that was too.
Well, it was the daily fees that I was getting the most grief about,
Yeah.
not that that should be a
Well,
consideration.
if you look at this survey that we did, we're in the middle, okay? Some of them charge $13, some of them charge $4, you know, we're in the middle. But some of these pools are much bigger too, you know, so it all depends on how you hit it.
But to me, there's an option there that if you have a 30-day outdoor pool and you use it 30 days, it's $2 a day.
Yeah.
You're incentivized to buy the larger packages. I mean,
Yeah.
that's, If you look at an annual, the annual price for a golf package or anything else, you're gonna get a deeper discount
Yeah.
than doing a daily rate.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
And
and I think we have-
admittedly, though, I hear it mostly from the people who are coming in to rent for the weekend.
Yeah.
And the complaint I heard this last year was that if a couple comes in for the weekend, it costs them $18 a day to go to the pool, where they're probably gonna spend 3 hours.
Yeah.
And so, and this year is not a good gauge because of COVID. So, I don't know, I just wondered what the logic was behind and whether we had looked at it, because
Well,
that's the feedback I was getting this last year.
Do you feel that going to the $6 any day, regardless of what day it is, would play an impact? Because if they're traveling here for the weekend and as it was, you know, a higher amount, well, I apologize.
Well, you're,
It is a little bit, I'll shush.
But maybe we could do a family card. for
Math
those who
kicked in.
have-
It was somewhat dynamic pricing, Karina, so they were basically using that dynamic pricing model on the weekends to be a little bit higher priced on the weekend, a little bit lower price during the week. They just eliminated the weekday pricing and went to straight high price. They just picked the higher of the two and stuck with it
Well,
Monday through Sunday.
you also have to realize, this happened before my time, is that the rec department came up with this formula, okay? And they mandated that we stick to it, okay? And I don't like this formula, but I think we need to try and get rid of it. But, you know, a property owner pays $6, okay? A non-property owner is 60% higher. That was always been in that formula, always, for every amenity. All right, so if you look at all the amenities, it's the same. All right,
Only recreational.
all recreation. And, I'm sorry, not, golf isn't that way, but if you look at in the records, I suggest that we get rid of that. The other thing you have to realize is taxes is not included in this thing. And I wanted to round them off, you know, and that was a no-no too. So, you know, I think there should be a little more flexibility than what we can do here, you know, in my mind, but that's just me.
So in present form, as forecast, the subsidy is 15,578.
What are you looking at now?
2021 budget, the forecast.
For the pool, he hasn't seen
Just
that.
for the pool.
Mayor, not seen that.
Okay.
Outdoor pool. The difference is $15,578 between forecast revenue and our costs.
What's the question? How much?
Well, I guess the point is, reducing the annual outdoor pool property owner and the outdoor pool couple by 12.5% and 14.2% will still be in a little bit more of a losing position with the pool initially, because some of it early on, the pricing structure did not, or I think very early on, include lifeguards, am I correct? And then the decision made, oh, we need lifeguards.
insurance, actually.
And then insurance, and then they add all that good stuff. So, you know, things like that quickly piled onto that. But as it is right now, you're proposing a 14.2% reduction in the annual outdoor pool for a property owner.
Yeah.
And a 12.5% reduction, that's that $262.50 for an outdoor pool couple plus dependents. And you guys think it appropriate and more than reasonable to work on some sort of package before the next season opens up to address maybe villagers that don't have either an annual or any sort of membership at all, but they get 6 grandkids coming over to visit them for
Right.
2 weeks, and maybe a grandkid pass or an extra visitor pass, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, that's true. We've been talking about that, and as you know, Serena, we're going to on to do, but, you know, I've always been in favor if you buy a car for so many swims, you know, at least for grandparents, you know, because they may get their kids 1 week and then maybe come back 2 months later and it could use the same number of swims, you know, if you get 10 or 20 or whatever, if you buy a card that way. Now, depending on age, we could do it by age if you want, you know, under 5, under 6, like others do, or we just do it, you know, a carte blanche for kids, you know, but we need to go look at that some more. You know.
Because if a couple, if a village couple with dependents buys a pass, and there's a 4-month season, so that 262.5 divided by 4 months is $65.62 a month, okay? You buy the family pass, you could go 30 days in a pool for every day, and an average cost of $2 a day.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
That's for as many kids as you have. If you're a husband, wife, and you have 5 children, that $262.50 covers all of you.
Yeah, no, that's a heck of a deal. And they are being reduced even further, so. Questions? I'm good.
Okay, no further discussion on,
Do we need any discussion on that?
well, I guess in the spirit of what we started, should we consider a motion for simply
For that,
the pool stuff on the screen?
anybody?
I would like to see the inclusion of a punch card type of thing. I think that would solve the renter's dilemma, maybe make them utilize it more. If they're gonna use it 1 day, they might buy it, you know, for 4 people. They might buy a 10-pass punch card and waste 2 of them, and it'd probably save them money, but I like that idea if we could put it into this year's fees. But
Yeah, we
maybe
need
that's-
time to do that. What we thought about is, you know, before the pool, was we can bring something back and we can approve it at that time, because the pool's not gonna be open until April, at the earliest, you know. If you're okay with that, and approve this, then we can work on the other.
Then I'm ready for a
I
motion.
think we have your commitment to work on that, you know?
Yeah,
I mean, I think our task at hand is the fee levels, not the fee structure. And the fee structure discussion generally is way more complex, because there's not only that option, there are probably other options that need to be considered. And, you know, essentially, we should let the Recreation Department and the Recreation Committee, you know, consider all the complexities.
Yeah, and I guess the only other comment that I've got on here would be that why don't we just leave the outdoor pool for non-property owners at the $9 like it was? We're planning on COVID through this year again anyway. Taking this to $9.60 using that formula, it makes no sense to me either. And that's an odd number that somebody's gonna have to be making change on. And 60 cents is not gonna break us one way or the other.
I'm okay with that, but, you know, it's,
I'm fine with that. Stephanie, are you okay with that?
Yes, in fact, that's what I was gonna say. I would recommend if we could get approval on the annual fees, the 2 annuals, the annual and the annual couple with dependents, and let us go back to the drawing board just a bit, because I'm just getting my hands in it as well, on the daily fees for property or non-property owner, some other, you know, family kinds and punch cards and things like that, options. We have some time because it is a seasonal amenity, and let us come back to the board with another structure for the daily use stuff.
And I think because it is seasonal and we really have no benchmarks,
that's all
Right.
right.
I think that's perfectly fine.
Good.
So would you guys like to see it as $9 standing for now on this schedule?
That's just my
Yeah.
that's my
We need to vote on that.
Ta-da!
We need to vote on every item, so I move to approve the $9 fee reduction from the proposed $9.60.
And everything else?
and everything else,
And yeah, I'm good with everything else if everybody else is.
and maybe add, should the motion say add something prior to next year, or study it for next year?
Right.
Okay, that's what I wrote
Work on
down.
something for next year.
Okay.
Okay.
Second?
Are you approving just the pool or all of the fees?
Just the pool.
Okay.
Just the stuff you see on the screen.
He needs a second.
I need a second.
I second.
Second.
Okay? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Before you sit down, can you back that up or go down to just the fitness center? Okay. We're getting rid of the 15% ACH charge. So the question I had was, is there a cost burden to us for processing ACH? So in other words, are we subsidizing? I assume that it shouldn't say 0, it should say $4.50. Is that correct?
That's my fault, yes.
No, that's fine. But we're charging the same whether it's annual one-time upfront or monthly ACH. And if like 3 people elect ACH, then I don't care. But if it's a fairly popular option and it actually costs us to do additional processing for ACH, then I would just automatically question it. So what are the facts?
There is a cost that is associated with it because you have staff that is pulling the report from everybody who has signed up on ACH billing, putting everything in the system, processing that through our point of sale, which then translates and gets sent to the bank for them to process the draft and so forth. So there is banking fees associated with that.
Okay, you're saying there's banking fees and then there are staff
Staff
costs.
time.
Have you had much experience with people turning the ACH on and off because it's convenient for them? They're basically arbitraging us.
We have a clause when they sign up that it is for a 12-month contract. So we don't necessarily have very many that terminate that. What we do kind of run into sometimes, and it's not a big issue, but would be returned ACH items. So if we went to draft their account and the funds were not there, and processing everything on the back end there.
So when you pile up everything, ACH, we are subsidizing the ACH people.
If it is taken out like what was recommended.
Excuse me, it wasn't recommended to take it out. That
No,
was
it
not
was
our
not.
recommendation.
We did not want to take it out. What we said is to lower it, because we think 15% is too high.
The 15% was a mistake that happened from what we can tell several years ago by previous
Okay.
committees, and it was interpreted incorrectly and added to fees. Typically, like if you get car insurance and you decide to pay it by the month instead of the year, the insurance company or whatever type of company adds $2.50, $3 a month processing fee for your ACH, for your auto draft fee to your bill. Somehow a mistake was made and there was a 15% charge added to everyone's ACH fee, and that was never intended to be that way. It was incorrect. So it was very unfair for people, because people who were paying $100 for lawn bowling were paying 15% on the $100, but somebody was paying $3,000 on golf was paying 15% of that amount for an ACH fee. So what we proposed is that research be done with the accounting department to find out what are the actual fees we receive from the bank and how much labor is involved on your end, so we could establish a fair, flat ACH fee to be charged for any.
I understand. I received this information as is, so I apologize for
So it was
that.
left blank because Stacy was supposed to get that information to you, but somehow it got submitted, and so it looks like 0, but it was just waiting to be filled in with the correct amount.
I understand.
Actually, it's even worse than that, you know. If a person buys an annual, okay, if they pay, and they don't pay for it right away, it's 15% every month that they pay, okay? Now, if they buy a couple, okay, and they get a 25% discount, just like this 260, they're still paying 15% on the couple cost. You know, not on one, but they're paying it on 2, you know? So that is a penalty. It's a huge penalty, you know? even the credit card will charge you 3%, but, you know, so we thought maybe $2 or $3, because there is some work that you do and some banks do, you know, but 15% to me is way too high. All we were asking to do is to lower it.
I
We
understand.
didn't ask for it to go away. I know that rumor got around somehow, but that is not what we asked for.
It's just because the spreadsheet filled in zeros by accident because there wasn't
Oh,
the correct
that was-
information in the previous cell. We never recommended zero.
Yeah, we never recommended zero, no.
So the issue for the board tomorrow is they got nothing to approve with respect to that one line. Okay. And I'm a big fan of, if you can come up with a reasonable charge for that, where the zero is, I would love that. Not speaking for the board, just speaking for me, but,
Well, to me,
I
that's,
don't, given that you have 24 hours, I don't know what you can do. But
Yeah.
that's,
to me, the accounting people have to come up with it, what does it cost, you know? And it's a couple bucks, I would think, you know, and, you know, they do it by the month. The other thing that was happening a couple of years ago, part of it Stacy again, is that some of the members, property owners, they would go through the ACH, okay, then they'd want to stop it, then they'd want to start it again, then stop it and start it, you know? That's the reason they decided only to do it on the annual, okay? That's the only time they allowed them to do it, and that's when the contract came. I think accounting, in my opinion, felt that they were being worked too hard because they were starting and stopping, they decided to raise it, you know, make it so nobody use it. And that's my opinion, I don't know, that, so they got to be, you know, 15% on an annual. But so they pay 15% each month, and they get double cost when you have a couple.
And I could be completely off base and inaccurate in what I understood from being told in the past, but that it was set up more that if you paid cash, it was really more of a 15% discount
Correct.
applied to everything else,
Correct.
not necessarily a 15% upcharge
Oh, I see.
for
And somehow
ACH.
the upcharge got created and it just stayed in place.
Yeah.
But it was really supposed to be a 15% discount to somebody who's paying in full.
Yeah. Oh, I see, yeah.
And then we just need to know what is the cost the bank is actually charging, and then whatever labor you have involved. And if the bank's charging $250, then we need to charge $3, or, you know, whatever that number comes out to be. But a flat charge. And again, to Jim's point, if we were married and a single person, you're drafting from the same bank account for one person, $500, or you're drafting $900 for two people, you're making the one draft. But the way the system has been in place is you were getting a 15%, you were charging 15% on the 900, which was a greater amount of money, but only one draft was being made, so it should have been a flat charge.
I understand what you're saying. I wouldn't be very happy either.
But if you look at some of the other villages that are around where I lived before, credit cards, if you use a credit card at the beginning, then they'll charge you 3%, the village. But if you want to pay by the month for the year, and you sign a contract, they charge you additional 3%, you know, to pay with a credit card. So the ACH is okay, but 15% is just too much, in my opinion.
So,
Logical.
So how do we address that item as an example?
can those that have the zero on there just be taken off of the fee schedule? Is that what I'm understanding?
And to not charge anything for it being an ACH
Well,
draft.
I don't know.
I
You know,
think that would be a mistake, because you'd lose all of the annuals, and those are, you know, if there's no charge for doing it monthly, why
Right,
would you do
which-
an annual?
I mean, shouldn't there be a flat charge for an ACH charge?
I mean, there are costs associated with processing it that way.
I
Sure.
would guess somewhere in the 6 to 7% range,
That
maybe.
is, that's really where I was guessing at.
Got this going.
That would probably be what would cover the processing fees from the bank. And you typically have 2 to 3 staff because you have to delegate your responsibilities when dealing with the financial aspect of it. So you have a few different people that do key elements. And it usually is a couple of hour process over 2 different days processing. So.
Well, I can see where the confusion is here, because if you've got $632.50 for 2020, we were charging on something, we're not gonna charge you anything next year. Sounds like a pretty good deal.
That's my flubber, my mess up.
Just not sure what I'm gonna get for it, but.
So I
Yes.
guess, Katrina, we're looking at you to come up with, you know, what's a realistic upcharge, processing charge?
And I think what you're saying is it wouldn't necessarily be every single time we draft the account, we're tacking on an additional percentage, right? It's like you sign up, you pay your, just eat math, your 400, you add 5% to it or 7% or whatever it
And-
is, once.
I think that should be the way that we
I do
approach
too.
this.
Yeah.
It's your one-time setup,
That's
an
right.
additional X amount. So really, your first draft could be potentially $5, $10 more, but then the remaining drafts for the rest of the year equate out to what your
Or
typical
the
cost.
amount of the, whatever it
Yes.
is, yeah.
Except kind of one flat time upfront fee, that's your.
That makes a lot of sense, I think.
But shooting from the hip, my assumption would be banking cost and salary costs and all of that involved, we would be looking at probably between 5% and 7% to cover those expenses.
So if I'm on the 460 for the individual annual, I think I used 7%, was about $32. So the first payment would be the 460 divided by 12 plus 32, is what you're proposing.
That's what I would,
I think that's,
because then you're not being hit, as they mentioned, if you have a couple when it's one draft and so forth. I think it's a fair approach.
so
You don't
basically
apply
it
that
would be,
in golf as well. Do you have ACH in golf?
I don't think so.
I thought you did.
But it would
I could be
basically-
wrong.
You would apply the same formula to any type of draft, the same staff times, the same process.
Yes, there is, and we didn't change it there. Here it's
Of course, it's a flat fee, and this is a percentage of
Golf will be a lot more expensive.
So you wanna crunch some numbers on that later on, Katrina, and then when you resend that, you'll have,
Yeah, let me pull
yeah, you
our
wanna put there?
bank analysis statement and see if I can kind of dig into some of that information. I'll give you guys an update tonight.
With that, are we good to move on to meeting rooms?
Could I just interject, Karina, on page 9
I think so.
of the fee schedule? It's just a typo. Tenants non-property owner 2 hour. You see it?
Uh-huh.
That should be $11.45.
Oh, okay. Are you guys okay with changing that to fix the error?
Which one's
5
this?
cent, 5 cent.
The
change.
5-cent difference on the tennis 2 hour,
Non-deal.
not
It's
you.
just a typo.
Excuse me. Okay, meeting rooms.
Meeting rooms.
Generally, the same kind of discussion, which was, meeting rooms cost too much, lower the fees, incent greater usage, feedback from various, potential customers are, too high. I kind of understand what you're trying to do with the quarter hour thing. It gives the customer, potential customers, more flexibility to manage their costs. I guess one question would be, what efforts have you undertaken to reach out to these people who are saying they might use our facilities if the fees were lower? So with that, I'm not sure what other questions they may fairly state some of the feedback that we've been hearing.
Well, basically, these, as far as I'm concerned, these fees are not high at all, you know. And there's a misnomer in my mind, you know, people are going to the churches, right? They say the churches are free, well, they're not free, okay? Believe me, I've been to a lot of them, and my wife has, you know, and whether you're doing exercising, or you go there for a meeting, for a book club, or whatever else, you know, they don't charge, but they make it, but they ask that you give a donation, right? And everybody in that room usually gives $1 or $2, I've seen some people give $5, you know? Now, what happens is, if you go to the Coronado Center, the club pays for it, and all the property owners come in, they don't have to pay a nickel, right? And so the clubs complain about it, because they think it's too expensive. If they go to the church, the club doesn't pay about it, but the members that come in all pay $1. Now, if the POA did that at the Coronado Center, said, give us a donation, property owners would give it to you because they think it's free. They should be free. But if they actually paid for it, you make more money that way, just like the churches would do, you know? And everybody that does fitness center and in the churches, they pay $1 or $2. Some don't pay any, but they still make pretty good money because it offsets their utilities. And that's what you've got to do with the Coronado Center. You've got to offset, you know, the work to set up the rooms, take them down, change them, okay? The churches will tell you that you can use the tables, you can use the chairs, move them around all you want, just put them back where you left them. Well, POA doesn't have that because they have liability, you know? And then you've got people that are setting up each room each time, so you gotta pay them. And if you stop that, you're losing a lot more money. And, but, you know, for the size of these rooms, that's competitive if you go out there and you know, so I'm not sure how you handle that. But you've got to charge something, you know. If the room is set up, what they do is, if you go in and say, I want to rent a room, okay, how big, how many people are you gonna have? Do you want chairs, do you want tables, how many tables do you want? Do you want round tables, do you want the rectangular tables? How do you want them set up? How many people are you gonna have? And they have a calculation sheet, the Coronado Center does, on how many chairs to put in, how long time it takes for, put up a table, and they'll tell you exactly what that is gonna be. That's what's gonna charge you. If you use it for a quarter hour, half hour, or 3/4 of an hour, or an hour and a quarter, that's all you get charged for. And to me, you gotta have that. I mean, because if you let it go away, then you're losing more money. But these are competitive races, they really are. You know, the only one that might go down a little bit is maybe the auditorium or the basketball thing is, because some people think that was more expensive. That's like $66 or whatever it was for an hour or something. But, you know, so we had a round table on the Coronado Center, and a lot of people came in, and when you start talking about it, then they say, oh, yeah, you're right. You know, churches aren't really free, but it's how they're getting paid. You understand what I'm saying? So we felt that the fees should be left alone, just like they are, and they do pay by the quarter, okay? They invoice by the quarter. If you were there for an hour and 15 minutes, that's all you get paid for. They have a sheet of paper when you get in there, and when you're done, they say, what time did you start, how many people are there, and they have a staff person all the time, when somebody's there, and they go and pick that sheet. If they don't fill it out, then they get charged for whatever they said they were going to use it for, okay? If it's less than, they didn't fill out the sheet, but, and they will monitor that. And it's actually a good program, it really is, but I don't know how you're ever going to get it profitable, especially when the people that are actually going to the churches are actually paying and not the clubs, you know, because a good one is the computer club. Sometimes they get 40 people in there, okay? Now, if they were going to church, everybody would pay for that, but the club wouldn't. Now, when the club actually has to pay for it, they say, gee, that's a lot of money. That's what's happening. So you got a problem. I'm not sure how you handle that. But we felt that the fees should stay what they are, because I think they're very competitive.
I'd say if I read this right, it would be about a $17 charge for setup and tear down, for room one, for example. $17 charge and then $5.65?
No, you're not listening to what I'm saying.
Okay, I'm missing, I listened, I just didn't hear it right.
Room one, okay?
Uh-huh,
If you need one table in there and 2 chairs, and that takes them 10 minutes to put it in there, you get charged for a quarter of that,
okay, so $4.25.
okay? That's what I'm saying,
Plus $5.65 for the room for an hour?
for an hour, yeah. Now, if you do that
It's
same thing,
unconscionable to charge that little, I think, but,
it depends how many people come in now.
well,
Okay?
yeah.
If you do that at a church, you get 10 people in there, church gets $10,
yeah.
okay?
To me, this says we have more of a perception problem than we do a feed shop problem. Because I think these personally are dirt cheap. And it's just people are accustomed, and I hate to say this as a culture thing, but maybe if we squeak loud enough, somebody's gonna throw some grease at us. And we just can't operate on that. I mean, the email I sent around earlier asking for the incremental costs, this is barely meeting our incremental costs. When you take bathroom supplies and staff supplies, or staffing and so forth, you can't possibly cut these.
I had asked Katrina and Stephanie if they had done a cost analysis on the per hour charge that you had requested, and I apologize, I didn't forward that information back along, but they had prepared that, and they averaged out, it was $125 an hour to operate while we were open. When you take utility cost, overhead, you know, all of the supplies that goes in, and everything accounted for.
And would that be the whole building? That seems low.
Yeah.
But, that seems very low,
But if we don't charge anything at all to occupy it, how are we gonna fund keeping it open?
yeah. This is
In any
contributing,
capacity.
nothing to fixed costs, it's just meeting expenses, to me.
Not meeting expenses.
Well, as it is right now.
Not even that, huh? Not even the incremental cost.
As it is right now, if we keep the rates the same, the 2021 budget is projected to have us losing at the Coronado Center $155,862. So to lower the rates would only make that worse. In 2020, go back to 2019, which was a normal year pre-COVID. You really can't look at 2020 because it was been messed up. But 2017, we had $61,000 in rentals. 2018, room rentals, 65,000 in 2018, 57,000 in 2019, and then COVID only so far through August, 11,119. So obviously that's gone way down. If we're assuming, and the guidance is assumed that the COVID phase 2 still exists, that situation isn't going to be much better. And reducing rates in half would cut that 53,000 in projected revenue in half down to 24,000, which would make everything else the same, and we'd lose $178,000 instead of 155. Either way, it's a bleak situation. It's a bleak
The
situation.
facility itself has really, in the last couple of years, become an extension of the fitness center, very honestly. And you're right, the utilization numbers in just straight room rentals are way, way down. These guys are the experts, but I do know enough about this, especially with COVID, because of the needing to spread out social distance and things like that for classrooms, fitness center, yoga, Pilates, all those kinds of things. They're using the auditorium more than really anyone. And so, and two, the fitness center only has one classroom, so the Coronado Center really is, in some ways, morphing into an extension of that fitness center, in some regards. And then obviously, we have so many meeting room spaces here, so I think that, you know, if we can start to incrementally shift our meeting room tenants to this facility and continually brainstorm on ideas and ways to better use the footprint of the Coronado Center, not so much for committee meetings, but for actual programming and events and fitness center activities and things like that, then we'll start to see ourselves pull out of this nosedive that we're in usage of the Coronado Center, I think. I think that's our goal. Is that fair? Okay, yeah.
So overcoming that perception seems like could be another goal for the marketing people who are talking about marketing
Internally.
locally.
Internal marketing, yeah.
The one area that I see on the sheet, you know, we have a reputation, if you will, of nickel and diming, you know, in our fee structures. And because we have a setup tear down fee in there that we're charging by the quarter of an hour, it's really minimal in terms of the overall impact to budget. If you were to eliminate those two items, just as a test, if you will, in this next 2021 year to see what that does to the revenue generation, it's not gonna hurt us. It's not gonna, you know, break the bank if it turns out to not be a great idea and we have to kind of reverse course in 2022. But that's one area where we can eliminate a fee, see what happens, and just stick with the room rentals. The setup tear down is included. Is that?
We kind of started doing that here already.
Yeah.
Because people they would start not wanting to get a room because
When
every
that-
chair costs something.
That's
So
right.
We just said it's $1 instead of paying whatever you need, we have, you have.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels like by quarter hour, you know, you're getting pinched by every little thing you might need to make your event the best or your meeting space the best. When it's all sitting right here, our staff is already here. We don't have we're not overly staffed. We have one maintenance person on staff pretty much all the time that can do that work. So I think that would be an easy cut and maybe show goodwill.
The only difficulty I see with that is anytime you cut a fee,
Or go
then
back.
you're really raising it when and if you add it back.
That's
And maybe from a perception standpoint, a setup fee by the number of people might be different. I know round tables are more expensive than rectangulars and stuff like that, but I truly do not think the fees need to be cut in any way, shape, or form. And if people, you know, if you don't want to call it a setup fee, we can call it the minimum fee. This is what it costs at minimum, but you can't go any lower for that. We don't need to start subsidizing it when it's not contributing anything to fixed costs at present, I think.
Well, the guidance was no subsidy increases. I'll go back to the guidance, and if we were to reduce fees, that is what we will be doing, increasing subsidy. So I'm inclined to think that these fees shouldn't be changed. I know, Lloyd, you've probably as the board member, you get the luxury of the feedback from visitors, luxury. I don't know if that's the right word for that.
Love it.
You know, but I think a lot of it is because they just don't have exposure to the numbers like we do. They realize what it costs to keep this.
I guess my only comments along this line, and I think Stephanie hit on part of it, we need to figure out how to utilize these buildings better. We're gonna turn them into disrepair, as we have with some other buildings, if we don't figure out how to use the buildings. I can tell you that some of your clubs, they may be paying the dollar when they go to the church, I don't know. Point is, they're doing it, they're not using our meeting rooms anymore. So, we've got to figure out a way to entice them. Maybe it is a perception problem. And that's my only issue on this whole category is building utilization. So I don't think it's worth putting a stake in the ground, particularly in a projected COVID year, over this fee schedule. So I'm inclined to agree with what's being said here, except for the Woodlands. And I'd like somebody to explain to me on the Woodlands how it is that in 2020, and I'll just take the first line item, we're charging $885, and next year we're gonna charge $55.30 per quarter hour.
Yeah, that's
The 884 is a 4-hour fee.
You gotta,
Pardon?
The 884 is a 4-hour fee. Those are for big performance groups.
And the other is a 4-hour minimum with quarter-hour increments after, so it's no change in fee.
It's
The
no
fee's the
change.
exact same,
Okay,
but
this-
after 4 hours, we will start charging you by the quarter hour instead of the hour.
So this is based on a 4-hour minimum?
That's correct.
For like big concerts and,
No, I know what goes on there, I just,
Yeah, you can see the notes to the right in your fee schedule, it states 4-hour
Oh, it
minimum,
does.
and then it goes to a quarter hour.
so if I had
Mike?
an act I wanted to do in there that lasted an hour and 55 minutes, I'd have to pay for 4 hours.
That's correct.
Okay?
You have to find a smaller venue to do that. But yeah, all the way, Lloyd, all the way down to Woodlands
I'll be
Auditorium
here all
Presenter.
week.
All the way down to Woodlands Auditorium Presenter at 262, I believe, right there. Am I correct in saying all that, down to that point is a 4-hour minimum?
Let's see. Oops,
Yeah,
sorry.
some of them equate out to the 2020 fee, but this was just unclear as
It is
to
unclear,
what
yes,
the
it is.
requirements are.
Yes.
The rooms themselves are 1 hour minimum. These rooms. That's what you're reading down below that.
So you're saying that the first line item, the proposed is $885 for a 4-hour minimum block and $55.30 for every quarter thereafter.
Thereafter.
That is correct.
Correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
That is correct.
okay.
Got it.
My formula was off, I apologize. It's fixed now. The ones that have 4 say 4 now.
Math wasn't my strongest suit, but I knew that one didn't add up.
It was my concatenate and I pulled from the wrong cell.
And I said, I don't know.
Might I make one more comment about the Coronado Center? It's related, but a little bit unrelated, and you guys can weigh in, these are the area experts, but, one of the complaints I've heard for years, not just, for years, is that because we haven't invested in things like comfortable seats and equipment that is current and up to date, it precludes us from getting some of the events and people that will rent our spaces because our chairs are hard plastic. All 300 of them, or 350 or whatever it is. And we have old stuff and we haven't invested in it in years because we really just haven't had the money, and so we cut it. But it really affects our rentals because people really and truly can't sit in those chairs that long. They just complain about it, so
And our
for what it's worth,
And our sound system there is an 80s models.
Yes.
So, it can't present a quality product
That's
that they
right.
had there. Now, last year, we did replace it because, the insurance for the lighting strike, we did replace it with LED lighting. The first time it's had it up there. And to help the comfort of the performer and people give presentations. But if we do not move that forward, if it's decided that we're gonna have presentations there of a couple hundred or 100, we have to be able to upgrade that too, because it's to the point, it's to the point where I've had to bring stuff from home to fix transformers and just to keep it going.
so the tech is outdated, the furnishings are outdated, and all of those things combined, they play a part in who's willing to pay us the money to rent.
Yeah, extremely valid point.
Yeah.
So we're cleaning up the verbiage on the Woodlands where appropriate,
Yes.
highlighting that 4-hour minimum. The rest of the rooms down below, Ponce lobby, so on and so forth, are 1 hour? 1 hour rooms, okay. Put that up. That might also, where'd it go? Anything else on rooms, Ponce, anything else? So we all feel good recommending that to the board? We can move to,
For consistency and formality's sake,
oh yeah,
it sounds like we need a motion to approve the Coronado Center room rates as submitted? Is that what I'm hearing?
yes.
Would it just be the Coronado or all
All
the facilities?
Well, all room rates.
Coronado room rates, Woodlands as corrected.
Yeah,
Do we want
Woodlands
to
as-
include the caveat to refer to internal marketing, the perception issue?
That'd be fine.
So, move to approve the Coronado rates, Coronado Center rates as submitted.
Second, I'm second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passed.
Okay, now I'm going back to a question. Sorry about that, but we're just approving Coronado, not the Woodlands? Woodlands,
That was next, we need a motion.
a separate one, okay.
Somebody else throw out a motion.
Did them all
Throw
together.
out a motion here.
I move we accept Woodlands as corrected.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. I guess I have one last snippet, thank goodness, and I hope it's an easy one. The question arose about $2.50 golf charge on 9 holes. I don't think we have any experts on the surcharge.
Anybody from here representing golf?
Stephanie, is there any way you can address that in general as to why we're charging $250 per 18 and $250 per 9?
I mean, I can only give you historical information, and in the past, we've had surcharges in the past, surcharges paid for Isabella, Granada, the renovations at Cortez, the renovations at DeSoto, et cetera, and that was the model, part of the time, and part of the time, I think at one point we had a $4 surcharge and $2 for a 9-hole. I think it's just kind of been both ways.
This is the same as it was this year. There is no change to the golf surcharge. It was the $250 across the board in 2020.
But the heat that I'm getting for this lazy people that only play 9 instead of 18 is, why am I being charged $250 when I'm only playing 9 holes?
Now we know the right.
I mean, it's not really necessarily about how many holes you play, it's just about building up a reserve account for every round of golf
No,
play,
I
whether it's 9 or
understand.
18, so.
Which, by the way, I haven't been able to play this year, but,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
It's
feel
been
sorry for
crazy.
me, please.
Does anybody happen to know off the top of their heads, round numbers, how many 9-hole rounds are being played?
I could tell you, we have that in our report.
Yeah,
I don't have it off the top of my head.
right, yeah, I went looking for it, but couldn't find it, but I assume that it's not a huge number.
I'd have to look to be able to
Right,
tell you
okay.
specifically.
So I was wondering what the dollar impact was, because the goal is to build reserves. My own personal point of view, and as the chair, I'm supposed to stay neutral, but that doesn't stop me from having my own personal point of view. Golf is heavily subsidized. There's a huge capital overhang with respect to golf course, not only with respect to Balboa, but what's right behind Balboa. It is going to be you use the term piranha, I'm gonna use the term orca. So, it ain't no piranha.
Now, I will
And-
say, it's not reflected in the fee schedule because the fee schedule is set up as max fees, which we
Right.
are not there. But they are increasing the round play by $1. It's, like I said, it's just, it doesn't affect the numbers here because we're not at that cap.
Golf rates for residents, and I understand people will always complain about fees no matter what. They're very attractive. I mean, anybody from the outside who comes here say, boy, this is really cheap. And I said, well, that's your accompanied member guest rate. I'm paying like 2/3 of that number. And the 9-hole rates, particularly after 1 o'clock, are, they're really, really inexpensive. Having said all of that, if we want to cut it to, $1.25, I don't think there's that much money at stake. but the reality is, you know, golf from a fee standpoint is very affordable to them, but it is not very affordable to the POA.
Correct.
But again, I mean, I personally wouldn't fight it because, you know, the argument's pretty obvious. You know, if it's $250 for 18 holes, then why not half that for 9 holes? But my other recollection was when it was first proposed, we were proposing a $5 surcharge, weren't we?
I wasn't involved in the
Right.
first proposal, so I'm not entirely
Yeah,
sure.
I thought the 250 was sort of a temporary measure while we come up with a more robust plan about what to do with Balboa. But, okay, that's my general point of view.
I'd like to add a comment. I don't want to keep the meeting going, but it's going along pretty well. I do want to mention something that we'll probably get some pushback on, and that's the library fee, but I wanted to just speak to that a little bit. People are going to see going from $9.45 to belong to the library to $20. Some people may think that's what's going on there, so I think you need a good explanation of what that is. I can speak to that, or you can speak to that if you want to. Defer that. Serena can speak to that. Okay, here's why.
I didn't know I was gonna stand up, so I'm in charge.
While she's doing that, I'm gonna say real quickly, the 2021 budget with the $20 annual fee incorporated into it, we will still have a loss of $44,764 budgeted loss. So to me, it was extraordinary to see that much loss with such a small, out of a small entity. So if you would explain.
Okay. When we looked at reviewing the fees, as being on the fee committee for the first time this year, we were actually provided with the incoming revenue that we have and the expenses that are involved. And when I went through and ran the numbers for every single amenity, I received a report on the single fee for the library last year, for this year, was $9.45 for an individual and $16.54 for the second member in a household. And that $16.54 is already a 25% reduction. Super seniors, or regular, super seniors get a 50% discount, and employees get a 50% discount. So when you look at the total number of subscribers to the library, the actual money that we receive is $8.97 per person on the average. But then if you look at the expenses, it's costing us $44.04 per person to operate the library at a loss of $60,635. So we made the decision to raise the fees to $20 to use the library, which is still only cutting the subsidy in half, but we are gaining that 50% reduction in subsidy.
Just not everybody else will know.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a deal, but do you have any estimate of if you double the fees, will subscription actually decrease?
I can tell you that we hear a lot of complaints about the $9.45. People state that, oh, well, they've always had the availability of a public library. Of course, that's an entirely different animal with a different support base to it. And they say, oh, well, I could go to the Garland County Library and it'll be free. That's true, but it's 15.7 miles from the West Gate, and it takes 30 minutes to get there and 30 minutes to get back. The cost of gas to drive to the library 50 times a year in Garland County would be $200. So they could pay us $20 a year to use our library and not have to spend the hour to get there and back. Or they could choose the free option in Garland County, but they'll spend $200 in gas.
And then $20 a year is a nickel, 5 cents a day.
I was gonna say, I really don't think 10% of the people cause 90% of the complaints. I've never complained about the library fee. In fact, when I first saw it, I said, heck, pay it. If we never use it, it's still cheap, you know? So at $20, I don't think it's gonna be a problem. You will get complaints, but those people are gonna complain. If you lower it, you wouldn't have lowered it enough. So I'd say good job.
I will tell you, the people I asked said, I'll pay $20.
Yeah, me too. I still think it's cheap.
And we were trying to be incremental and perhaps there's appropriate raises in future years going forward, but we were trying not to make too great of a shock value in 1 year.
Personally, I think you did a commendable job and struck a good balance.
Well, the subcommittee worked very hard as well, and they had excellent support from Katrina as well.
In fact, is there anything that you need to add? You guys comfortable with everything else? I have an answer on your surcharge. Do you like me to?
Oh, great.
I know some people. About 18,000 nine-hole rounds a year.
Okay.
And what he is telling me is that when the board approved the surcharge, they did it per round. And the way golf tracks rounds, a round of golf is a nine-hole round or an 18-hole round equates to 1 round. And so they were budgeting to build up a certain number of reserves or a certain number of dollars in that reserve account based on rounds played, and rounds are rounds. 9 holes around and 18 holes is around, so they decided to send it at the same rate.
So essentially, we're saying, we're putting roughly $20,000 on the fee. Okay.
Well, it's 18,000 rounds, would you say 250?
Well, going from 250 to
Oh,
$1.25.
Yeah, you'd be cutting it about
Something like
20
that.
grand.
Yeah. Okey doke. I think, again, being a slave to consistency, the 2 issues that we just discussed, one was the library fee, and do we need to have a motion to either, I mean, it sounds like to affirm it, but I don't feel that it's controversial.
No,
Or, I mean,
No, I mean, if you.
Nobody was pushing for it.
If we were to make any motion, I would think it would be to affirm
I was just trying to
everything we
clarify.
didn't address.
right. Well, the other issue is, do we really want to go after the 9-hole golf surcharge?
I wouldn't think so, because it takes the same amount to administer 1 round.
Yeah.
I guess that's why the word round stuck, it's a round, whether you're out, whether I'm out there 2 hours.
Stephanie said, you know, I mean, there's only 18,000, we're talking about 20 grand. We need as much money in that reserve as we can get to keep our golf courses up and going, so it just doesn't seem like it should be that big a deal at this point. And it is a surcharge, it's not an increase in fees, so not my personal opinion.
Well, I'm trying to protect you because you're the guy who's going to get
Oh,
beat up.
I'm gonna get beat up anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Okay. I don't know that, I mean, unless somebody else has something that they want to raise with respect to fees, it seems that we've addressed everything that I perceived as being, we're getting, serious pushback.
I think we did.
So as long as, Lloyd is able to drag himself out of the car after being, kicked around next week, I don't think we have anything further.
The person leaving here with some work to do, unfortunately, is you.
And,
But,
As usual.
and I believe the only thing that we are reevaluating is the ACH draft fee. Is that correct? I'm not missing anything else that we need to readdress.
And you may want to look at your cover page,
Well, the cover page says
Revise that.
eliminate ACH fees.
Yes, and that was
Right.
misunderstanding from
Right.
information being passed along. I'll own up for that one.
Okay. Well, it seems to me we've addressed the the meat of the issues. With that, I'm just going to go around the table and ask for committee member comments. Do we have anything? We'll start with Kathy.
I would just like to commend our guests for coming and sitting through this again when you've done all your work already, but thank you.
And I certainly second that. Morris?
No, I'm good. Just appreciation for all the hard work you guys put in to get this far, for goodness sakes.
Lloyd?
I guess the only comment that I would have, Karina, would be that down under introduce croquet to the outdoor amenities and fees, I didn't see that done.
Yes, that's actually over here is right here.
That's in there right there.
Along with the new rolling, the kind of the packages that they wanted to be able to do.
Okay,
We
well,
did
let's-
not discuss these.
Yeah, well,
Today.
because to my knowledge, that hasn't been discussed. Haven't seen an ROI. Don't know where we're talking about putting this in.
I'll refer to.
So I'm not sure this should be part of this fee schedule at this time. That's just my take on the items that were on the list.
Well, I can answer the croquet.
Huh?
I can answer the croquet question. You can
Okay.
answer it? The croquet has no additional expenses to it. We're using the lawn bowling court. So it's just a matter of sharing that existing amenity. There's no additional expense to the POA.
I like that.
What's not included is our proposal that's in the capital budget to add archery to our amenities. And that's a minus 2 year return on investment, but you'll have to look at that and then add it to the fee committee or not.
Right. Okay, thank you.
And that was removed
Then we're good.
for the moment.
Thank you.
My only comment is a general one, which is the timeline under which we were asked to address the fee issues. And I think it's a topic for the committee later on, which was how did this work for us? It seemed to be maybe a bit too much squished into a bit too little time.
It was.
So for future consideration, as a postmortem, what should we consider, adequate timeline? We haven't done the budget yet, which could turn out to be a piece of cake, or it could turn out to be, sticking your hand in a meat grinder. So we'll find out. John, comments?
No, of course, a post-mortem definitely is in order for the process. We've had a lot of changes in the whole process, the establishment of the finance committee, all the way through budget meetings, so on and so forth. And, I want to thank everybody that I came in personal contact with, all the department managers and superintendents, and who are not here, but they all know who they are, that all were very forthcoming and, welcomed the questions and welcomed, I guess, the opportunity to give feedback. And it was good to, I learned a lot about the village that way, and I appreciate that. That's all I got.
Gary?
As being one of the newest members of the committee, I wasn't around earlier this summer when some of this early work was done, so I definitely appreciate everybody. And let's see what the board comes up with.
Okay, Karina?
Well, I would like to thank everybody's time and efforts between the committees and with the rec and us and all of the staff and the hard work that was put into everything. I think, as you mentioned, there's a lot of insight to be had on every aspect of it. This being the first go-around, kind of being shoved in head first. Thank you guys for all having patience with me. Next year, knock on wood, timeline will be much better, but we survived. It's
So far.
so far, yes.
Not dead yet. Okay. At this point, we invite comments from the guests, so raise your hand. Okay, I don't see any raised hands. With that, motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Okay,
Second.
okay, meeting adjourned at 5 minutes to 5. Thank you very much, everybody.